Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social Podcast. We are back here to discuss the first three stages of the Giro d'Italia, as the cyclocross star Mathieu Van der Poel certainly gave us enough talking points there to talk about. Twan, welcome, thank you to be here with me today on this transfer day of the Giro d'Italia to talk about the first 3 days.
Hello.
How did you enjoy the Grande Partenza in Hungary?
I thought it was really fun. It's just always nice to see some different countries, get them a bit more involved. Of course, you can see cycling in Hungary, it's getting more popular. We have 3 Hungarian riders at the start, in Attila Valter, Erik Vetter, and Barnabas Pejak. And yeah, it's just really nice to see something like that, give them a little boost on their way up. And it made for some okay racing, good to start off a Giro in quiet but good fashion.
Yeah, definitely, and for a country without a large history in cycling, there were definitely a lot of fans that came to the road. Judging by it, there were also a lot of fans of Attila Valter. Of course, the young Hungarian took the pink jersey in the Giro last year. I think that definitely had its effect. And, I mean, in terms of racing, stages 1 and 3 were a bit boring, but it was always expected in those relatively flat stages, in my opinion. Just the usual, some Pro Conti teams wanted to get some TV time, and then after that we just have a mass sprint. And in the case of stage 1, it was a mass sprint up a hill. And, I mean, it was kind of, in my opinion, the perfect hill for Mathieu Van der Poel, even before the race had already started. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I think when I first saw it, there is a little bit there that I thought maybe it's a little bit too easy for the sprinters. I mean, we saw in Turkey, Ewan was able to get up a hill quite far, which is something I definitely expected again for that first stage. And a lot of other sprinters were there to challenge him as well. So I thought maybe there would have been a bit more sprinters than there actually were in the end. But it is certainly a very good shot for Mathieu Van der Poel, as even if they are there, they are going to not have their super acceleration that they would have had in a mass sprint.
Yeah, the climb was just over 3 kilometers and averaged at 3 or 5.1%. And I think that's a perfect terrain for Mathieu Van der Poel. It's indeed, as you said, too hard for the pure sprinters. We saw them drop, but it's still a bit too easy for the real puncher types that we see in the Ardennes Classics. Not that these riders were here, the likes of Pogacar, Schachmann, etc., but those type of riders, this is still a bit too easy for them. So then you come to the crossing between Flandrian/sprinter type and the Ardennes type, and then we indeed think about Mathieu Van der Poel. Was the pre-race favourite, and in the end pretty comfortably won that first stage in a sprint, didn't he?
I mean, I wouldn't say comfortable, because we did see that he was basically too tired to even properly celebrate it right as he crossed the finish line. So Biniam Girmay certainly pushed him all the way, but yeah, a decent margin for sure.
I mean, he had more than a length on Girmay in the end, so his winning margin was comfortable, but indeed, as you said, he was pretty tired, needed to go fairly deep for it, and it kind of makes sense because probably, as always, pressure plays a role, and I think it's hardest to really show what you're worth when the pressure it is at its highest point. And in case of Van der Poel, the pressure was super high. There were a lot of expectations, and he once again showed that he could fulfill those expectations and take the win here. I think he's the second rider to ever take the leader's jersey in the first Tour he does and the first Giro he does. The only other rider who has done this is Fernando Gaviria. So yeah, definitely impressive by him. And I mean, what do you think? Do you think he'll be happy that he could get rid of that green kit that he was wearing?
I certainly I'm not the biggest fan of it. I don't particularly understand were they forced to by the organization because the normal kit looked too much like Ciclamino, or
no, it was that they were doing this to generate attention for some new product from their Italian sponsor Phoenix, but judging by this, that attention hasn't really gotten to most people watching, but that's what's behind it.
Okay, I'm not particularly big fan of it. I think usually it's nice to see different kits than usual, but it's very unremarkable.
Well, I thought it looked pretty nice. Definitely a different color in the peloton instead of all the traditional blue and a bit of white. I thought it looked pretty nice, especially like it blended in super well with the green environment they were riding in. It's something else. I liked it, but I think for Van der Poel, he will definitely be happy that he could swap it for the pink one, because who doesn't love a pink kit, and especially the pink bike he got for the time trial on day 2.
I don't wear pink a lot, but if I ever manage to get to the Giro, of course, then you absolutely love to wear it.
Yeah, and in a full pink outfit on a super pink bike and pink details on his helmet, Van der Poel started the time trial in the city of Budapest on the second day. As a last rider, he stormed through the city and eventually set a second time there, just 3 seconds behind Simon Yates. What do you think? Were you surprised by this result of Mathieu van der Poel in the time trial, or time trial was more of a prologue distance, but as it's not the first stage, we have to say time trial?
I think it was a bit of mixed feelings. Like, I knew he had a nice gap to Tom Dumoulin, for example. So 14 seconds, I thought he would probably be able to hold on to it. Having seen what he was able to do in the Tour de France, of course, last season. But there's still that doubt, because it's 14 seconds at the end of the day. It's not a lot. Like, it doesn't take a lot to lose it. And Simon Yates riding an excellent time trial, of course, putting the pressure on. But Van der Poel just very good. I think it's a distance that suits him for sure. And he was able to hold on to that pink jersey, and really not too far from the stage win as well.
Yeah, I think it wasn't a surprise to me once again that he did so well, because it was a time trial with quite some corners, not the most technical one, but it was definitely a bit of acceleration that was required in that time trial. Also with this climb at the end of the time trial, that he was, I think, he wasn't in the top 3 fastest riders, but that doesn't matter. It was kind of a perfect effort for him, because we know from cross and also from cross-country mountain bike, not cross-country, short-track mountain bike, that Van der Poel loves these relatively short efforts. This was a sub-12-minute effort, and I think there are few riders in the world who do those faster than Mathieu van der Poel, especially with a couple of accelerations in it. So I thought he could even potentially win that time trial. Yates was surprisingly good, but yeah, I think just for Van der Poel, based on what I just said, that his time trial abilities were already shown in the time trial in the Tour de France last year, in which he defended the yellow jersey, and this was more suited to him, so I think it was definitely good. And he said himself he was disappointed he didn't focus more on time trial and the preparation, and if he had done that, I mean, maybe he could have won it, because he hardly trains on the time trial bike. But what do you think? Where's the potential of Mathieu van der Poel in time trials or prologues?
I think at the end of the day, just within his very busy schedule, trying to combine 3 disciplines, I don't think there's a lot of time to spend on the time trial bike, and I don't think in the long term it's going to help him that much or bring him that much. Of course, being able to wear the jersey a few days longer is really nice, but if you can already do that with very minimal practice right now, I don't think he'll ever go for the World Championships time trial, so I don't think there's too much point to it.
Yeah, I think you have a very good point there, that it's very hard to combine it, and with the World Championships time trial will always be too much, especially seeing the distance, I think. But for instance, the Tour de France this year starts with a prologue, and I think that's definitely something that Van der Poel can put a very good time in. I think it's a bit more technical, and we've kind of been used to non-prologues in the last couple of years, that it's kind of easy to forget that sprinters types can do very well in prologues. I mean, one name that comes to my mind is Marcel Kittel, who in the Düsseldorf prologue, I think, ended 5th in the Tour de France prologue, or somewhere around that. And it's not weird to see these sprinter types do that well in prologues, and yeah, I think that Van der Poel is just showing this, but there was also another cross rider, or a former cross rider, that did pretty well in that stage, and that was Ben Tulett. He rode to a 5th place in that time trial. To me, that was a bit more of a surprise. How about you, Twan? Did you expect him to be that well in the time trial?
I think he did an excellent job. Just a very good rider. I think the same for Van der Poel. It's just an effort that, from his cross background, he is used to making. and put a few more corners in there. It becomes a bit more technical, and he gains a few places because, of course, technical ability and matters for a lot with the gaps being so tight. And Tulett has been quite good this season. Like we talked about his performance in Copia Bartoli before as well. Just been having a great season so far, really proving why he got that spot on the Ineos squad, and has had a great opening weekend in Hungary as well, coming 15th comfortably in the main peloton on the first stage too.
Yeah, I think it was a shame that we didn't see Tulett in the Ardennes due to him focusing on the Giro. I think in the Ardennes he could have gotten a couple of nice results as well, but that's for the future, and for now I don't know what Tulett will be doing. I expect that he will be on domestic duties for Carapaz, but for now he's definitely shown that he has a good prologue / short time trial in his legs, so it will be interesting to see what he can do. Same goes for Mathieu Van der Poel. In the third stage he didn't sprint. He was doing a lead out for Mareczko, but the train disappeared and Van der Poel eventually came across the line 17th and had the pink jersey for another day. But first, to come on that sprinting, do you think that Alpecin should have launched Van der Poel in that mass sprint?
I think if he wants to, he gets the opportunity to sprint. So I think at the end of the day, it was his decision, as well as the team leaders, of course, to have Mareczko sprint and to do the lead out instead. I think it's unfortunate that he could challenge for the points jersey, but if you're not going to do the mass sprints, it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but at the end of the day, it's his choice.
Yeah, maybe there's a bit of sponsor interest in that, because we know that Phoenix, the Italian sponsor, is behind the signing of Mareczko. They were earlier behind the signing of Esparagli and Modulo. Maybe they want to see Mareczko get some results and some exposure. He was the first Italian in the stage. I cannot really tell how much attention that 5th place gets in Italy. I don't assume that it's that much, but it will definitely have some people talking. But yeah, indeed, as you say, I would love to see Van der Poel compete in those sprints, because it's always okay, his positioning isn't good enough, but you see here with 300 meters to go after doing a bit of work, he's definitely in a solid position, and he's like this Sagan type in my opinion. If you put him in a train now, he doesn't like following that, but you have like 1 or 2 guys help positioning him, and he just chooses his own wheels and then swerves from wheel to wheel. I definitely think he is capable of getting at least the same result as Mareczko gets in these sprints, and then the difference is that Van der Poel can do it on hilly stages, and then, as you say, can win the points jersey. So I think it's really a shame, and I think something will need to change at some point, because also regarding the team itself, they were going to bring Merlier here, and to the Tour they're bringing apparently Merlier, Van der Poel and Philipsen, and they want to compete for the green jersey. But if you're going to launch different sprinters every day and keep your best hilly guy out of it, whilst this Tour de France, it's more likely that a complete type of rider will win due to the lack of sprint stages, it's going to become very complicated to actually challenge for that green jersey, and that's something that I think Van der Poel should target, because he's really made for it. Final thing here on the Alpecin Phoenix team, I already said it, they were going to bring Merlier here. After our Roubaix podcast, we mentioned that there was an injury on the end of Merlier and the Giro was unsure. He was unfortunately forced to sit out the Giro, but also, as said, he is going towards the Tour de France. Let's look forward then. The Giro continues tomorrow, or today as you're listening this podcast, with a stage to the Etna. The Giro heads to the mainland of Italy. What do you think that Van der Poel can do on the Etna? Is it possible for him to defend the pink jersey?
I think he'll need a lot of headwind in order for it to be quite slow on the Etna, and even then I think it's quite tough, because Yates will maybe go for it. And then I think it's 14 seconds. It's 11 seconds. Sorry, it still isn't a lot. It's quite easy to lose. But at the end of the day, I think realistically, Breakaway is probably going to win on the Etna and take the pink jersey away from him in that way. I think at the end of the day, for Mathieu Van der Poel, he did what he came for in that first stage. Then was able to hang on for 2 more days. And I think it's calculated that he loses it on Etna, and he'll be completely fine with that.
Yeah, I think indeed Etna is too much climbing for him. climber type like Yates and Dumoulin are not far behind, so I expect that Van der Poel will drop. I think he will try though. He did it in the Tour, even in the mountain stage, made it to the last 30, but then Pogacar went nuclear mode and, the rest was known for that Tour de France, but I think that he will sit out the Etna, and then after that, I think stage 5 is already a new opportunity for him to win a stage, and I really hope he does win, just only for the reason that I want him to roll into this leading position in the points classification, that there really is no way around Alpecin to say, okay, we need to go with Van der Poel in the sprints, we need to try and win the points jersey. I would love to see that. Well, to end off this podcast, we're going to look at a couple of performances outside of the Giro d'Italia of a number of cyclocross riders. Let's start with Gianni Vermeersch. Had a bit of a tough classics campaign, definitely not the level he had last year, but he is finally looking to get around the illnesses he had, and he won the 5th stage of the 4 days of Dunkirk, and he did that in style, winning the Queen stage there on the Kasselberg. Unfortunately picked up a time penalty somewhere, which meant he was out of GC, otherwise he could have also won that, but I definitely think it was a good performance and showing by Vermeersch that he is indeed returning back to that level to still have influence on some of the races following the season. What did you think about that win, Twan?
Yeah, I was very happy to see the result. As you said, been struggling a lot throughout the Spring Classics, and to be able to do that on Cassel, it was just very solid, and unfortunate about that time penalty.
If we then look on the women's side, I mean, there's been a couple of riders we've been talking about this road season so far, and one has been Silvia Persico, and she continued her strong showings this year by winning an Italian race and doing well in a Women's World Tour race in Luxembourg. Tell us about it, Twan.
Yes, in Festival LC Jacobs race in Luxembourg, she did very well in the opening prologue. A third place on the opening stage, with Anna Henderson taking the prologue. Capablanca was also worth a mention, I think, finishing in 10th place, riding a solid race, joining the top 10 for the second stage as well, where Marta Bastianelli won ahead of Silvia Persico, Demi Vollering and Paulina Royakkers also in the group, putting her in the lead of the overall classification, tied with Demi Vollering. Unfortunately, last stage it was a bit too much for her, and she would finish down in 18th, 25 seconds behind the stage winner, and it would lose her 2 spots in the overall classification as she dropped down to 3rd. Marta Bastianelli taking the victory ahead of Veronica Ewers, with Persico rounding out the top 5. Capablanca Vash finishing in 15th.
Yeah, definitely a strong showing by Persico. I'm interested to see what she will do for the rest of the season. I don't think we have a word on the rest of her calendar, but I assume that she will be racing Tour de France Femmes, and I know that race is super hyped. I think it's interesting to see what will happen there. Many riders are targeting it. I think it could either be great or it could be somewhat of a flop. I hope it will be great. It's great to see that race come up, and I just hope to see Persico do well there. Another rider, which is probably our final bit of news, Shirin van Anrooij has extended her contract with Trek and Trek Baloise for another 3 years. I think it's a good deal for both sides, that of Van Anrooij.
Yeah, I think Trek gets an amazing rider, both in cyclocross and in the road. And hopefully she can continue with developing that engine, because we saw this spring that it was absolutely amazing what she was able to do, and maybe over the next few years develop more into a leader's role.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that Trek really put their eggs in her basket and see her as the next big thing in their team, and she is, in my opinion, the biggest talent of the Netherlands on the road, in my opinion, although you could still make a case that that's also Lorena Wiebes, but Wiebes has already been around for so long that you don't feel that she's still young, but nevertheless, I think that it's, regardless of that, just Van Anrooij is super talented, as you said, both in cross and in road. She's in a happy environment in Trek. She can combine the two things she loves the most there, both our sides are super supportive of it. So yeah, I think that will be very good moving forward for both sides. Well then, I think we've had it, Twan. Thank you very much for being here today, and I look forward to coming back to you later this Giro when more has happened.
Thanks for having me on, and let's indeed hope that Van der Poel has more special performances in his locker.
Yeah, I think we will definitely be seeing more of Van der Poel, and I indeed hope he has more in store for us as well. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will be back already tomorrow actually with a new podcast, not about the Giro, but about the Mountain Bike World Cup in Alpstad. Thanks everyone, goodbye.